WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. Robin, I've told you a lot of stories about when I was younger. My friends and I used to go into New York City and just be there, right? And we used to ride the train, the subway, and a game we would play sometimes was What's His Story?
Okay.
You would look at somebody sitting there in the subway and you would say, you're trying to figure out what his story is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day, and I was thinking, what would somebody say about me? Like, if I were to be the adult and there were some kids, they would look at me probably, and from their perspective, I would look old, and everything we are, and everything about the way I look would give them some idea about maybe who I am, or what my story is. You know, am I wealthy? Am I poor? Am I an artist? Am I a construction worker? You know, what am I? You know, and of course, if they got it right, that would be kind of interesting, wouldn't it? I think who I am, though, has nothing to do with what you see on the outside. And maybe some of it manifests itself on the outside. I don't know. But that little game we played probably was just that, a little game. It probably told us nothing about who those people were or where they were going in this world, right? And that came to mind when I was looking at the information for the next book we're going to talk about. It's called The Duality of Being. Very super interesting. Oh my gosh, I have so many questions for our guest, who is the author of the book, Dr. Susan Nicholas. She's a Reiki energy healer, a conscious life coach, let me try this one, pharmacokinetics chemist. Am I saying that right? She's the founder of the Human Consciousness Consortium. She plays the violin.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that part too. She's a French language and culture enthusiast.
I like that part too.
I'm a French food enthusiast. She's an author of illustrated children's books on the topic of consciousness, and an adult book author also. That's obviously the book is an adult book, The Duality of Being, Perspectives from Multi-Dimensional Travel. All right, long intro, so many questions. Dr. Susan Nicholas. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning, Robin.
It's an honor to have you on our show. Where are you calling from?
I'm actually calling you from southern Illinois this morning.
Nice.
Oh, very good. How's the weather there today?
A little bit chilly. I reside in Atlanta, but I'm traveling a little bit, so you're catching me on the road.
So what is your life path? If we can just take kind of a weird first question. I mean, how did you come from being a child to who you are today?
Sure. Thank you, Larry. I think we all have convoluted paths in life. And for me, I started my life in a rural community in Pennsylvania. I was born to a 17-year-old mom. I was her second child. And we lived in poverty. I lived on the public welfare system until I was in elementary school, when my father remarried and moved us to West Virginia. I then went on to complete college and end up going to medical school at the University of Iowa and moving to the Bay Area to do a surgical residency. It was at that time during my fellowship that I began to have, I would say, the beginnings of my conscious awakening, even though I didn't have words or any language around that. I ended up leaving my clinical medical training and moving to Atlanta, where I went to business school, started a healthcare company, and then after that became an equity investor for healthcare stocks. And it was during that time that I had another, what I call kind of like a inward, perspective, kind of a moment where I truly felt that I didn't want it to exist. And this is when I began to leave out of my own body and see the whole of life with a new perspective.
So you were able to do at will what they call astral traveling?
No. For me, it was a spontaneous leaving out of myself. And I believe what precipitated that was the depth of sadness that I'd carried within me from childhood. And this affected the entirety of my life, but I did not know it. What I did know was that no matter what I achieved in life, I had a visceral sadness, like a profound emptiness. And I didn't know what it was from. I didn't know how to connect the dots, so to speak. And that carried over into every achievement, every life circumstance. That sadness was there. And each time I reached the height of my academic achievements or my worldly achievements or my life goals, the sadness and the emptiness was still there. And it left me with this look, this perspective on life that it was not worth living. And I truly didn't want to exist. And I believe from that depth of sadness, from that pit of emptiness, is where the spontaneous travel began.
So if emptiness is a relative term, because you wouldn't experience emptiness unless you had known what fullness felt like, does that imply that you had, at one point in your existence, I don't know if this one would be supernatural or whatever, but I mean maybe a previous life or something, did you have some awareness of what wholeness felt like?
Larry, that is a very interesting question. So yes, everything that I perceived is relative to something else.
Yeah.
And I think for me, at least in this existence, it was the idea of what I thought I would feel like when I accomplished things. So I thought, when I graduate medical school, I'm going to feel this way.
Yeah.
When I get my choice fellowship, I'm going to feel that way. When I give birth to my child, I'm going to feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
When I get my kitchen remodeled, I'm going to feel this way. And all of those milestones, achievements, desires were met with, I called the void.
Interesting, yeah.
The empty void.
So a lot of us feel that way, and so I wonder if maybe a lot of us have some sense of what a full feeling feels like. Robin and I were riding bicycles one time, and I don't know what we were going through in life, but money has always been one of those things. And I always say, thank God if everybody has to have a cross to bear, whatever they say, I'd rather it be money than health. I'd rather that. But anyway, we were riding on this trail here in Florida, and we stopped to take a break, and we were sitting on this grassy hill. And I'm telling you, Doctor, it was beautiful. And I said to Robin, you know what? It doesn't matter how rich I ever become. This place, this moment, never could be any better than this. And it's that kind of a thing, I think, that happens to all of us now and then that makes us realize, all the things we think are going to fill us up probably are just goals that we strive for before the next goal, whatever it may be.
Exactly. And I think what I've learned and what I talk about in this book is that it goes back to what you were talking about, sitting on the subway and looking at people, and I would call it people watching. Just the very same thing. You'd be like, I wonder what their life is like.
Yeah.
And you said to your audience, perhaps what they see on the outside is not anything to do with who they really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is just it, Larry. We look at ourselves in the mirror each day, believing that image that is reflected back is the totality of our being. And in fact, it is only the tip of the iceberg. We are far more than this body. We are infinitely more than that.
Yeah.
And it is because we look at these physical and often superficial proxies for who we are, whether it's how we dress, how much money we have, how many degrees we have, what title we have, then we believe those things define us, yet they do not. Who we truly are is an energetic being. We are a soul, so to speak, having a human experience. And we neglect that soul to the degree that we feel that we do not want to exist anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But then you also have another emotional factor, is that when you grow up and you're feeling this way, and then you have a family of your own, you're with your children, you're protecting them, you're having fun with them, and then they grow up and have families of their own, but you still feel, like they're your children and you want to be there for them.
Sure, So yes, we definitely have a, so to speak, real physical existence, meaning that it feels very real. But what I'm suggesting is that it is not more real than the reality that is unseen. When our soul is not less than our physical because it is not visible to us.
Yeah.
The emotions that you're speaking about, the emotional body, which is intricately intertwined with our soul,
This is a demonstration
those
of
emotions are
Wirecast.
real. And when those emotions go unchecked, go uncleared, so to speak, then they manifest as physical disease.
Why do you think, Doctor? Why do you think that soul, that is the true us, and I agree with you. I think that is who we are. But why is it so securely latched onto the body? I mean, why? What is it about this experience that we're supposed
This is a
to
demonstration of Wirecast.
learn from? What do you think it is? What's the whole point?
Exactly. That's a great question. And this questioning of what's the point, I believed was one of the reasons that I was able to wake up, because I asked this question of myself over and over. I was relentless in trying to understand the point of my existence, of all of our existence. It couldn't be just to work and pay bills, just spinning our wheels, survival. I couldn't believe all the energy of the universe would go to that. And so what I learned is that we are first energetic souls. We're energetic beings. And we are having a human incarnation. Many of us have had multiple human incarnations. We have a dual purpose, just like we have a duality of our being. We have a purpose to learn about the physical earth, about our physical selves, and somehow to better humanity when we have a human life. We all have some purpose within us that has to be revealed through the process that I call introspection.
Of Wirecast.
On the other side of that, our soul life is what animates us. It's our consciousness. So we could be physical robots, so to speak, but no, we have consciousness. So we make choices, and we have thoughts, and we are creators. So in that duality of being, so to speak, our energetic self is also having an experience on Earth in an embodiment, and that experience is to mature the eternal soul. So the soul has many experiences throughout the multiverse to ultimately mature it, so it can return to the source of all that is.
That's wonderful. When we are close to somebody, whether it's because you're their parent or their husband or wife or their child or anybody we're close to, I think we know that soul. We know that person, and anybody in life can know another soul. It's the people like that we don't know, like maybe because they're on a movie screen or because they're sitting on the subway and you never really get to know them. But and I think that's why I can look at pictures of Robin. Let's use Robin as an example. We're growing old together. And I don't see her any different than I did when we were younger. But recently I put up an old picture on Facebook, and everybody goes, "Oh my God, that's you!" And,
I know.
And I don't see see her any different at all. So maybe it's because I don't see the physical; I just see the soul. I don't know if that's even possible.
Well, it is, and that comes from love. That is an energetic frequency that allows you to see beyond the physical of the true being. That's love.
So tell me about the book. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. The book is subtitled "Perspectives from Multidimensional Travel." Are these literally memoirs of your own multidimensional travelings?
They are. And they're the perspectives that I've gained upon returning to my physical self. Yes, so for the past 6 years, I have been able to spontaneously leave out of my body and come back again. When I first began, I thought I was having a near-death experience. I didn't have a diagnosis of anything, but the only context that I had for these types of energetic travel was near-death or out-of-body experiences that I had anecdotally learned from being a physician. When this was happening to me, I thought, oh, it must be my time to go, and this is what it looks like. You begin leave out in your body and see that you have consciousness beyond it, and then you begin that next journey. Well, I kept coming back, and I said, maybe I'm not dying, and I have the ability to leave and come back again. And I termed this spontaneous travel. I didn't know anyone that did this. I'd never heard of it. I ended up looking online and finding the Monroe Institute in Virginia that was founded by Robert Monroe. Now, he transitioned out of his physical in 1995, but left behind a center of basically out-of-body travel and kind of this metaphysical properties of ourselves. I spent 1 week in residence there and got to know his daughter, Patty, and other individuals who were seeking to have this experience. And what Mr. Monroe had created was hemi-sync sound frequencies to help people to transition out of their body. This is a highly energetic frequency, an emotional state that we can attain to be able to leave out of our body. Now, I had never required that to leave out of my body, but other people and Mr. Monroe, use these radio frequencies to travel out. And so it was through that institute and that experience that I began to put context around this in physical life and realize, that you don't have to be dying or have a near-death experience to experience distant realms.
Can you go backwards and change things?
So, Robin, there's a concept of time. We are in a time construct on Earth, and we believe that there is a past, a present, and a future. In the expanse of the universe, the time construct dissolves, and all is happening at once. So I had difficulty conceptualizing the time construct, and how it turned out for me was when I would leave my body, I would feel that I would have activities. I'd be involved in things that would take the expanse of an entire day on Earth, only to return to my body and be gone for 7 or 8 minutes. And I thought, what? How is that possible? I mean, it's as real as this
is a demonstration of Wirecast.
There's a distortion.
Wow. And you could do it at will. What is your physical body doing while you're doing that? Is it in bed? Are you just sleeping?
Yes. So for me, it's the idea of I don't meditate or I don't sit in some lotus position with my hands in any certain way. I find a place where my body is rest and secure. I have to make sure that my body is in good health, that my bladder is empty, that I am fully comfortable, that I'm not hot or cold. I have to be in a very comfortable position. I can do this in the middle of the day. I can do this in the middle of the night. And what I do is I lie down, and that there's a window between your wakefulness to this reality and your sleep state or your dream state. And that's when you can begin to travel. That's when you can awaken your consciousness within you.
Do you travel for a purpose?
Yes, of course. The purposes are different, though. So for early traveling, you may find that you are, just like on Earth, you are involved in lessons. You have your guides, your teachers there, and you are shown things that you are expected to master. So they're emotional skills, they're your challenges of your belief systems. All of these things will be challenged when you travel. You will be shown different scenarios that you are tasked with learning. Believe it or not, you also have work to do. Just like we have jobs on this physical planet, we have work in our ethereal planes. We're just unconscious to that. And so there are many things that happen, just as if there are 7+ billion conscious souls having lives on Earth, there are as many non-physical existences to experience.
So can you travel with a friend and have this whole community while you're traveling?
Go together.
It depends. It depends on your frequency. The travel that you're allowed to experience or the realms that you enter are based on your vibrational frequency. I want to go back to, you said something about souls and people that you know and that you think you're related to. We do have legacy soul groups. And yes, we do reincarnate together when we can. But when we finally transition out of body, we do not always land in the same physical place, meaning the same energetic place. It's not a geography, but it's you arrive at a frequency. So the frequency that you land in will be that of the other beings around you. You won't be lower or higher, or else you'll feel profoundly uncomfortable in those realms.
The job that Robert and I do introduces us to a lot of amazing and interesting people like yourself. And so we've had more than our share of people who've had the near-death experience stories and have written books about it. The one thing that seems to be common with all of them is they come out of that feeling that they have a purpose, and the purpose is to help other human beings, is to be more benevolent, I guess, to their fellow humankind. Does the travel that you're doing leave you with that same sense?
It does. In fact, I feel that the travel has awakened in me my true purpose. Now, I always believed, even as a young person, and when I say young, a teenager, that I was supposed to somehow serve humanity. And I believed my purpose was to be a doctor. I believed that was the best way I could serve humanity. And that's not good or bad. But my true path was through the consciousness, through the conscious awakening, through this path. And I just was unaware of that. I did not have the awareness as a teenager that this was even available to me. So I don't think my journey, becoming a chemist, becoming a physician, becoming a surgeon, was a mistake. It was part of my journey to wake up to this consciousness, this reality of who I'm truly meant to be.
My goodness. I'm so looking forward to reading the book. Dr. Susan Nicholas is our guest. If you're just tuning in, we've got about 4 minutes. I want to make sure we give the information out about the book. It's called The Duality of Being, Perspectives from Multidimensional Travel. Dr. Nicholas has an amazing credential list here, and I won't read it again, but just trust me on that one. Do you, I found the book on Amazon, so I know it's there. Do you want to direct us to a different website?
Sure. Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com is where the book is available. It's also available on my website, but again, you'd be linked to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com, and just a multitude of other online retailers for books.
When you're traveling, the multidimensional traveling, are you ever prevented from entering certain areas?
Yes. And I've also been prevented from staying out of body. And there have been times when I'm telling you, the experiences are so sublime. The feeling is of such powerful love that I feel that I wanted to stay out of body. But I cannot do that voluntarily. I have a higher self, and that demands that I be back here and finish my work here on Earth, so I do not have to repeat this incarnation.
Do the different dimensions have like a hierarchy, or are they different levels of awareness or something? Is there something different about the different dimensions?
Yes, there are. So there are near-Earth dimensions where your existence beyond this physical is just kind of slightly less physical self. So you feel like you still have a body, you can still eat, you can still do all the things that you do on Earth, but it's slightly less dense, meaning less heavy, many of the constructs are gone, so you don't need money. You can create with your mind. You can communicate telepathically, those types of things. Then there are farther reaching or higher frequency dimensions where you can travel as a mere point of light, as just pure consciousness, as pure energy, where you release the confines of an earth environment and of your physical self in its entirety. So yes, there are, and I'm sure there are realms beyond that. These are just the ones that I have experienced, while I still have a physicalness on Earth.
There's a certain aspect of being physical, though, that is just very enjoyable. I sometimes when I kind of think in terms of spirituality, and I kind of overdose on it. It's so fun to be with somebody who just wants to laugh and then have a pizza and maybe watch some stupid movie, you know? Isn't there something fun about just being human, though?
Is a demonstration.
Yes, there is, and there's value here. I tell you, Earth is perhaps one of the most unique planets in the multiverse. It is.
Seems like it.
It is amazing,
yeah.
But it's also formidable here. This is a challenged life. It is very dense, it is heavy, and we are embroiled in very dense constructs of money, of time, of race, religion, and many, many other labels.
And maybe that's
with our gender.
Maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's what God wants, is to have all these challenges so that we can become stronger.
Exactly. But there's also so much more. So Larry, this is a wonderful experience. and I'm very grateful to have had it.
Yeah.
But now realizing that there's much more, I say, well, gee, maybe I could be the creator of the next planetary system and do something extraordinarily powerful.
Whoa.
I love this.
I have a hard time making a cake. Doctor, what an amazing and interesting conversation we just had. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this. The book again is The Duality of Being. And repeat your website again, please.
It's SusanNicholas.org.
Easy enough, SusanNicholas.org. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. This is WOCA Ocala.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster.
This is not the new normal. This is the new abnormal.
California Governor Jerry Brown talking about the wildfires burning in his state. He's asking President